Hello, this is Group 14, and our topic is analyzing popular song characteristics by season over the years. When looking online, there are tons of articles that go over important characteristics in music, but more often than not, these characteristics are usually subjective. With our topic, we hope to be able to gain insight into what qualities of music people subconsciously look for throughout the year. We are looking to quantify what seems to be people's subjective music taste by analyzing changes in pattern in song popularity throughout the year. And as for significance, we hope to be able to maximize the success of songs and albums by showing artists when they should be releasing their music and what qualities it should have. For our methods, we scraped the top 100 songs for every month from 2000 till now from UMD Music, and scraped song characteristics from Spotify API for all those songs mentioned above. As for variables, we used season and month as our target variables and 10 different feature variables.
So once we gathered all of our data, we decided to put it into heat maps as shown below. You can see we have on the x-axis the month of the year, and on the y-axis valence, which is a song characteristic. As you can see from this data point, there are some definitive hotspots, but for the most part, the data is kind of spread out all over the place. That was a continuous trend over all of the data points, but valence happened to be one of our better ones. So you can see there are some points where you could say, okay, there's a lot of points at that particular location. However, for the most part, the points are spread entirely across the graph and don't provide too much data. Moving on to energy across the year, which was our second best characteristic, you see a similar trend where there are definitive hotspots, but for the most part, the data is just kind of blurred over the entire space, leaving not too much to interpret. We decided to also make a correlation graph because we thought it would be a good show of correlation and also an interesting statistic. So this compared every character or target and feature against each other and saw the correlation between them. As you can see in our top row, which is season, we have a fairly low correlation to every feature variable, but there are some interesting characteristics that match up and correlate to each other, as you can see lower in the graph. So since our data is grouped by season, we knew we needed to use classification algorithms to solve this problem, and these are the three classification algorithms we chose. First was Gaussian naive Bayes, which assumes independence between every pair of features and uses this assumption to try and predict the classification of each data point. We used k nearest neighbors, which groups data points based on their k closest neighbors and uses that grouping to try and predict future data. And finally, we used decision tree, which uses a tree structure to estimate a series of steps needed to determine a data point. At each split in the tree chooses some variables that it believes will accurately divide different classifications.
So to look at our results, we discovered that the definitive best classification algorithm for our problem was the decision tree algorithm, as it proved to have a much higher accuracy and also had a comparable standard deviation. We also saw that the decision tree algorithm performed about 4% better than the next best algorithm that we had. And if we look at the results that we have here, on the left we have a confusion matrix, and on the right we have a classification report. And for confusion matrix, the correct predictions lie on the principal diagonal from the top left to the bottom right, and the rest are incorrect predictions. We can immediately notice that the cell with the highest prediction for certain seasons isn't necessarily the correct one. For example, songs that were popular in the fall were predicted into winter much more than fall itself. And for our classification report, we can see that all our numbers are under 0.5 on a scale of 0 to 1. So it shows that the predictions haven't been super good. And by looking at our F1 score, we can also interestingly see that predicting and recalling the correct season for songs that were popular in the winter, which is for row 0, is relatively quite easier than those that were popular in the fall, which is for row 3.
So as for the interpretation, we decided our model would be a fairly weak predictor of a song's season based on its accuracy in the previous results screen. We did notice that the season with the strongest correlation was winter. We believe this could be due to facts such as holidays like Christmas, which have a large musical element tied to them, which occurs in the winter. But other than that, it seems like songs don't have much of a seasonal difference going from season to season.
And for our ethical implications, we said that our results can be accepted at face value, and we saw that our overall dataset is absent of any dataset bias, and we also concluded that our project does not invade any of the ethical principles, and so we are not doing anything ethically wrong in any way.
As for future directions, rather than comparing popular songs, further comparison should be between popular and unpopular songs, so we can better discern what are actually popular song characteristics. And we would also change the target variable to get more significant and easily interpretable data.